What's going on, Jerome's? Happy Monday. Happy, I don't know, I guess there really isn't a nickname for Monday, but live stream going on tonight. Thank you very much for joining along. We're going to go through some Q&A. It's going to be some good times. And also, we're doing live streams during draft month for the annual draft month food shelf fundraiser. Working with every meal this time around, and all Venmo super chats in the live stream. So if you got a question, toss a couple bucks in on the super chat, as well as cash apps, the normal ways that you guys donate and help fund the show will be donated to Twin Cities Food Shelves this month. Every meal can donate direct. Links will be in the comment section below. Our goal is 2,200, so we're currently sitting just shy of 700, but that's okay because we know that during the draft, when we stream day 1, day 2, is when we're going to make a lot of hay, and the 2,200 number for every meal is specific because we're trying to feed 2 children for 3 years, and what every meal does is a lot of kids get their food and nutrition from school, but on weekends, on holidays, on summer break can be kind of tough, and they fill in the gaps. They do great work right here in the Twin Cities. So help us help every meal during this draft season as we're cranking out mock draft 79.2. That's what we're doing, man. You guys are the best. Thanks, everyone, for coming along. Again, if you got a question in the live chat, what up? Toss a couple bucks in there, and then we'll go from there. So, also, thanks for everyone who submitted questions. Occasionally, we'll put it out on the community tab, call out for questions, and good stuff. Traveler, is Minnesota the most disrespected team in the NFL by the media? Yes. And I don't think that there's a close second. I really don't. Where I feel like the media is constantly pushing down on the scale against the Vikings. And I actually thought about this a while back. I think it stems from, the Vikings losing 4 Super Bowls in 6 seasons. And I feel like the media at the time, which was largely the print media, was just like, oh, Minnesota, the losers, they do it again, blah, blah, blah. And that got ingrained in the media because, hey, you can score points with readers just by punching down on the Vikings, and that's carried over throughout the years. And also, it's a spot where people and the media don't feel bad about it because the Vikings have had some successful teams throughout the years. It isn't like historically the Lions. It isn't like historically the Browns where they're just like, oh, you feel bad for them. Oh, but yeah, the Vikings and I think it's a combination between the team, the history, Minnesota seen as a flyover state, which it isn't. Coop Dog, I think this is the year we need to take a big chance on a quarterback of the future. It's not often we're this high in the draft. I'm all for giving up first this year and next to move up and take a top 4 quarterback. We will have a lot of money in free agency next year. We don't need that first rounder. Your thoughts? I think that, yes, if you were going to take a shot, this would be the year because Quasi had talked about, this is a year that we've targeted for quite some time, which is very plausible. And frankly, if a GM isn't looking ahead to multiple years of who's going to be draft eligible, wouldn't be doing their job. But I do think that the Vikings are uniquely positioned to find the quarterback of the future. And so, spoiler on a video we're doing tomorrow, I feel like there is, so Williams is going to go 1 to the Bears, but I feel like that there is a weird synergy where Daniels to the Commies makes sense, McCarthy to the Patriots makes sense, and Drake May to the Vikings makes sense. Just given where all 3 of those teams are at in their respective franchise directions at this moment in time. So it could be a win-win-win. And so we sort of gone back and forth. Like some days I'll wake up and be like, yeah, there's a lot of value in sticking and picking in the thick THICC of this draft, but also you have a shot to go up and get your guy, right? And I know that the cost to move up is expensive. It's going to be very, very expensive. But if he works out, you're not even concerned about the cost. It's exactly like Brandon Beane was saying about the trade up for Josh Allen from back in the day. Yes, it was expensive, but was it worth it? Yes, for them, yes. Or it's like the Chiefs in the trade up for Mahomes. Was it worth it? Bet your ass it was, right? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And guess what? Those 3 first-round picks that you would have sent for the quarterback, sometimes they don't work out either. Right? It's almost like this entire thing is a GD crapshoot. Who knows, man? Next up is Alan. Your thoughts on Carson Steele, running back UCLA, kind of a bowling ball with some home run capability. Maybe a late round rotational special teams guy. Had a killer 2022 with 1,500 plus yards and 14 touchdowns. So Carson Steele. He was originally at Ball State. Yeah, that's where he had that monster 2022 season. Transferred to Westwood. Now, what's interesting is his comp is like a very, very poor man's Zach Charbonnet. So, the UCLA connection is there. And I think that he might go undrafted. Like, maybe he goes in the 7th round. Who knows? So this is a weird running back class. So it's not heavy at the top. Like, it's not top heavy, but there is a bunch of really solid running backs in that 2nd and 3rd strata. Let's pull up the big board. All right, so I wouldn't be shocked if there isn't a running back taken in the first 2 rounds or top 50, we'll say. But in terms of guys that can be a really solid running back by committee, like I don't think that there's any bell cows in this class, but guys that can fill specific needs, late day 2 and early day 3. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of them. There's going to be a lot. Like Kamani Vidal is a guy that's really grown on me, the pride of Troy. Hank Aaron's great nephew, I believe. Cody Schrader, rushing champ from Mizzou. Then you got Frank Gore Jr., Carson Steele, Blake Watson, they've done a lot of work on. Basically, it's like a 3-down like Mighty Mouse running back at 5'9". It's really interesting. Isaiah Davis, the FCS Le'Veon Bell. Rashawn Ali from Marshall, I love a lot, who could drop because of his injury. Dylan Johnson from Washington was solid. Tyrone Tracy, former wide receiver, runs like... I forget who put it out there, but they comp Tyrone Tracy to running like a drunk idiot, but in the best possible way. Dylan Lowe from New Hampshire, by way of Strong Island. Super interesting. I think that he could be a offensive weapon, not just a running back. Isaac Guarendo tested the best of any running back in NFL Combine history. Was Braylon Allen's backup at Wisconsin, went to Louisville, had a nice season. Will Shipley had a great 2022, 2023, maybe not so much. Bucky Irving, former Gopher, did not test well, but, I mean, you see what's on the field. Ray Davis has an amazing backstory, played at 3 different colleges, Temple, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. Marshawn Lloyd is a stud. Audric Estime, I forget who put this comp out there, but they called him, since he went to Notre Dame, they called him Catholic Beast Mode. I don't know, but Estime, he's not a straight line home run hitter, but he's very quick in small spaces. He runs a power too. He's really interesting in the mid rounds. Braylon Allen, I think that, he doesn't break tackles. Baloney. But you watch Braylon Allen for 2 seconds, you know that dude's a stud. And also, you have to factor in when Luke Fickell went to Wisconsin from Cincinnati, they put Braylon Allen offset in the shotgun. He's a throwback, like dot the I, Derrick Henry type running back. He is not a shotgun read option running back, and that's what they forced him to be last year. Jalen Wright is good minus the injury. Jonathan Brooks may be drafted higher if not for the injury. Trey Benson is a stud. Blake Corum, a little bit worried about Blake Corum, but topic for another day. I mean, this is a really interesting running back class. Like there isn't a... there isn't a Jahmyr Gibbs, there isn't a Bijan Robinson all up in here, but there's a lot of guys that are going to be impactful on Sunday and also make a splash on some of your fantasy teams. So there you go. Again, this is why we don't do the throwback Q&A anymore, because it's taking 10 minutes on 3 questions. But that's what we do, man. That's right. Hey, let us know where you're watching from. We'll give a couple shout outs in the chat. Gorilla Edits, what are some pros and cons to sticking and picking and or trading up? So, well, if you're trading up, you're only trading up for a quarterback, right? And so those are the pros there. Cons of sticking and picking, I guess missing out on one of the big 4 quarterbacks potentially, but also, I mean, you could potentially stick and pick and still land a Penix, still land a Bo Nix, but also a major pro is that you're going to have 2 swings at this thing in the thick THICC of this draft. And if, again, long story longer, let's pull up the consensus big board. That's right. Also, have you noticed that ad blocker? I feel like they've gotten worse. Oh, looks like our ad blocker's on. Sorry, mock draft database. But, all right, so Vikings at 11-23. So Terry Arnold could be there. Quinton Mitchell could be there. Verse, Fuaga, Leatu, Byron Murphy could be in that mix. Cooper DeJean, Latham could be there. Wiggins. I mean, the Vikings, take your pick, like any of these two. So say the Vikings even straight up pass on quarterback in the first round, and then the Vikings end up with Quinion Mitchell and Johnny Newton, or Byron Murphy and Troy Fautanu, or J.C. Latham and Terry Arnold. Right, go full on Roll Tide, Alabama. Cooper DeJean and hell, Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins. Let's just completely own this secondary. Go ahead. But I mean, that's what's really interesting about this. Like, there's so many damn awesome opportunities. I love it. Merle, because Merle had to. Let's see here. Merle Hexam, Timberwolves playoff predictions. Foe. I know that the Wolves have struggled against the Suns this year. I know that the 3-6 matchup is probably the worst that they could have gotten. But again, I understand, right? But the whole thing about it is the Wolves. I think they're built for playoff basketball. They play fantastic half-court defense. Cat coming in and hopefully that knee is good to go. Anthony Edwards, hopefully shaking off some of that rust. Edwards did not have some good games down the stretch, aside from that 51-pointer. But I feel like the Wolves are ready. And yes, the Thunder are tough. Yes, the Nuggets are tough. Yes, the Celtics are tough. But hey, you beat the Suns' ass. You beat the Nuggets' ass. You beat the Thunder's ass. You beat the Celtics' ass. And to hoist that Larry O'Brien trophy one time. Let's go from there, man. Next is AJ Raven. You should rank our crazy stories over the years. Things like the Wisnator Love Boat dome roof collapse. There have been so many. I bet a segment will get a lot of views. That would actually be funny. And there's so many just random ones too, or like Randy Moss insulting Tanucci's, saying like, I wouldn't feed this ish to my dog, or 2010 in general. Randy Moss and Brett Favre played together for a month. Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? I feel like that should be more noteworthy. Or the Vikings and the poison pill. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. Love Boat has to be one, right? And we thought about this week. What if Love Boat was around during the Snapchat era? You know that like Brian McKinney or Fred Smoot would have done like a dozen Snapchat stories and just like Adam the Dragon. Handy Love Show, definitely the best. I feel like you should be the Vikings fan of the year one of these years. I'm not really a fan. I'm just more of a conduit. I don't know. That's not even an answer. But hey, thank you. But anyways, the question. So say they miss out on one of the good quarterbacks this year in the draft. Is there any good quarterbacks coming out next year that's worth the wait? So what happens every year is people look at next year's quarterback class and they sort of poo-poo it. But I mean, it's Quinn Ewers, it's Shedeur Sanders, and there's several quarterbacks that I'm sure will rise up eventually. Let's see. I don't want a slideshow. No. All right, so just a back envelope. I think Miller Moss from USC has a chance to really rise up. Quinn Ewers will be there. Shedeur Sanders, Cam from formerly Washington State, now at the U. I think will be good. Dylan Gabriel, sure. Yeah. There'll be a lot of interesting names that do rise up, especially in the NIL era. Guys that can transfer around and find themselves the best possible situation. There you go. Next. Chase Frazier, I'm still holding on to the thought that Jordan Love cannot be that guy. Well, I mean, Jordan Love was ass, thank you, the first half of the season. I mean, the Vikings basically broke him at Lambeau, but I think Jordan Love will be good. Will he be elite? No, but also the fact that the Packers had him marinating for so long means that they have to pay him. So it's kind of nice. Arfrey, the Vikings' recent success in drafting wide receivers changed the way the league scouts college receivers. Seems we have focused more on guys that can create separation and win routes in college versus the guy with elite measurables at the combine or the highest projected ceiling type athletes. Well, so looking back. So Chris Carter, off of waivers from the Eagles, separation. Randy Moss was just a straight-up freak. That's right. Jake Reed was super underrated coming out of Grambling. But then you look at... So Thielen definitely fell in the Vikings' lap. I mean, if he had been a UDFA out of California, probably would have been with the Rams or whoever. Then Stephon Diggs was a find. And that was a great job by Scotty Turner and company finding him out of Maryland. And the reason why Diggs stayed close to home because he had to stay close to his family, help raise Trevon and his brothers, and it's really respectable. What Diggs did, and also the whole thing about it too is like Diggs off the field never got in trouble. Like everything surrounding Stephon Diggs is in the locker room, which is odd for malcontents, right? Because usually there's a off the field component about it, but off the field, he seems pretty like a damn good guy. Although no one to let him date his sister. Anyways, but yeah, I don't think that the Vikings have really reinvented the wheel. I think that they've just had a really good hit rate in terms of receivers. I mean, Jefferson was a stud, Addison was a stud, but also Troy Williamson, no, Treadwell, no. So yeah, I think the Vikings and the Steelers have been very good at drafting receivers over the last couple of years. Alan Herb, T'Vondre Sweat tumble legit, worth it. From what I've gathered, I feel like T'Vondre Sweat would have had a draft day tumble without the DUI because there was already questions about him, being the class clown, being a party animal, and there is concern there, right? So with nose tackle, T'Vondre Sweat is 360 pounds, right? And there's always concerns about guys that size, especially nose tackles, that they'll put on bad weight, all right? And especially if T'Vondre Sweat is out there partying and all that stuff in college, don't get me wrong, Austin is a very fun town, and also with NIL money, it makes it very easy. But what happens when that NIL money is quadrupled or times 10, right? What happens when you're making millions of bucks in the NFL? Will that hunger still be there? Pun intended. Basically, does he love the game? I think that's a valid question, and I think that's... I think T'Vondre Sweat could take a legitimate draft day tumble. Yes, all it takes is one team, but if you told me right now that T'Vondre falls to the 5th round, I wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked at all. No. Next is Kelly Regaisis. Hey, Andy, favorite best Canadian Viking? I mean, it'd have to be Brett Jones, the Pride of Regina, right? I'm trying to think if there's any other Canadian Vikings. I know Bug Grant made his bones in the CFL, but does that really count? I don't know. Next, Scott. Whether we draft a quarterback or go with Darnold, what's the situation with Jaren Hall? Has he had his chance as a starter? Well, generally when you draft quarterbacks in the 5th round, you don't expect them to be a starter. And I said this at the time. If Jaren Hall could come in and be a solid backup quarterback for a decade, that is a win with a 5th round pick. Right, and Jaren Hall is going to be in the mix with Darnold, and Nick Mullins will be there too, and also rookie quarterback TBD. And Hall will get his opportunities too. And I know the people that Green Bay game sticks in people's craw, but that Atlanta second drive looked really good, looked really damn good. Now, will he be a star in this league? Probably not. Will he be a starter? Also probably not. But can he be a decent high-end backup quarterback with institutional knowledge of the offense? Yes. I think he certainly could and should be that. Showdown. Amazing story with Quantez Stiggers. Any chance for him to get drafted? Yes. I think that he will be drafted day 3. I think that he might be drafted relatively high day 3. So with Quantez, didn't play college ball. Had some family issues, didn't play college ball, got to start in the fan-controlled football league with Johnny Manziel. Also, I think Dalvin owned a team. It's weird. And then he went to the CFL and was the defensive newcomer of the year and was great. And now I think that he will get drafted, and I think that it's a great story. And frankly, I wouldn't mind if the Vikings took him. I wouldn't. Alan, if you could go back in time to any era of Vikings history and make a legitimate everybody wins trade, what would it be and why? I would deport Mike Lynn and block the Herschel Walker trade. Legitimate trade that everybody wins. I don't know. I know the studs of the Purple People Eaters from back in the day, Frank Tarkenton, Joe Cap, and whatnot. But I don't know, what were they missing? It felt like the offensive line was undersized, but it is what it is. I don't know, but I guess it's a legitimate trade that everybody wins. I guess if the Vikings could have picked up Drew Brees ahead of the 06 season, I know that wouldn't have been a trade, but just taking a gamble on dude's shoulder versus, I don't know, like what we're in the midst of then. All right, so Dante was a free agent too, and ultimately Nick Saban's undoing was picking Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees because the Dolphins medical staff failed him. And going with him versus, who's 06? Like Gus Frerotte? Probably. Yeah. Oscar Hess, is JJ McCarthy worth trading up to 5 for over stick and picking for Penix? I say McCarthy's top 3. We need to trade up. Well, it all depends on how the Vikings see him. Like if they see McCarthy as a top 3 quarterback of the big 4, go get him. And if they feel like they can grow and show with him, go get him. But if not, and they're enamored with Penix and they're okay gambling with the medical issues, I would stick and pick. GMO Dilla, where does the scale tip from okay to too much when trading up to 4 or 5 for you? Is 3 firsts and change too much? All right, so basically you have to throw out the trade chart. And we have a video up tomorrow about the trade chart where if the Vikings are going to move up, it's not going to be like the Vikings aren't going to get to 3, 4, or 5 with just 11, 23. Like it's going to take more than that. I know what the trade charts say. But basically, when you're dealing with the top of the draft, you can throw those trade charts out. All right. And the precedent is when the Niners moved from 12 to 3 with the Dolphins, it was 3 firsts and a third. And that's roughly where the Vikings would have to go from 11. And if the Vikings want, so I think the commies are sticking at 2. So I think that's a non-starter. If the Vikings want to get up to 3 and the Patriots, I think it'll cost 3 firsts and probably some change. Maybe that future third, maybe a current 4th. Arizona and the Chargers, they're going to ask for 3 firsts. Ideally, it would be 11, 23, future third, since the Vikings are in line for an additional comp pick, or a combination of some of the day 3 selections that they have this year. Because remember, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, a 6, and a 7. They have 7 day 3 picks. So hopefully that's all that it takes. But also it could be a spot too where say Drake May is the Vikings quarterback 1 on their board. And it goes, this is very realistic, where it goes Williams to the Bears, it goes Daniels to the Commies, it goes McCarthy to the Patriots. Now the Vikings guy in Drake May is there. And the Cardinals know it, and the Cardinals don't want to drop down to 11 unless they get paid. Same thing with the Chargers at 5. And also, you could have the Giants and or the Broncos and or the Raiders competing with you. If May is the guy and they're sold on him and it costs them 3 ones to get up to 4 or 5, go ahead. I think that's where we're currently at. Yeah. Next, Ben H. Thoughts on trade back scenarios 11 to 15 and or 23 to 30. 11 to 15. So the Colts. I don't know, Colts coming up for a receiver or maybe their choice of cornerbacks, and 23 to 30, Ravens. Ravens don't really trade up, though. Yeah. I mean, I think their last trade up in the first round was Lamar. Could be wrong there. But it would have to be a spot where the juice is worth the squeeze. Honestly, so say the Vikings decide to pass on quarterback at 11-15 and the Colts, for whatever reason, want to come up to 11, say for an edge rusher, say for a tier 1 cornerback or receiver. If the Vikings can get the Colts 3rd round pick and change, or maybe even push for that 2nd rounder, okay, then we could rock and roll. And like we said, 11-23, 15-23, having 2 pulls at the thickness of this draft would be kind of nice. Next up, Slimy Squid. How would you feel if the scenario, if we stick and pick and McCarthy is off the board at 11, Nix, Penix, BPA? I think we got to go Penix 23. What position would you target if quarterback is secured? I think trenches, Well, Skull and thanks, Andy. Thank you. Well, so say the Vikings stick and pick at 11, and then 23, they have the run of the board, right? So in that spot, I'm certainly going BPA. And what's nice about it is the area where the Vikings are going to draft, I mean, basically, BPA is going to sync up with whatever they need. right? So you got Murphy, you got Fatanu along the offensive line. All right, so D-line, you have Murphy, you have Johnny Newton could be there at 23. Cornerbacks, you have DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid is there. Offensive line, you have Fatanu, you have Barton, JPJ, Zach Frazier, our guy. So you could have your run of anything there. So I think that if you do stick and pick and take quarterback at 11, pure BPA at 23 and the rest of the way. Go do that. Next. Let's see here. Our free life question. Do we as a society have the power to change the economic climate we're currently in after seeing some major corporations profit margins over the last 2 years seems to dispel the story of inflation we hear? Can we as a people slow this down by spending or not spending our money more cautiously? Is there any chance the American people can band together to stop giving money to greedy corporations when they're just intentionally gouging us currently? Or are we too set in our ways of being good little consumers, whether we can afford it or not? I feel like there is a movement back to minimalism, even though consumerism is tough. I mean, it is really tough. And people are buying larger houses to store all of the crap that they don't need to impress people they don't like on things they can't afford. That's what happens, man. But I feel like minimalism will be the way to go. And, I mean, real life is just like sports. I mean, you vote with your wallet and just go from there. But I'm a little concerned about the middle class, which has been eroding since the boomers, basically. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Acer, what are your thoughts on how many J names are on the team? Imagine if we draft JJ McCarthy. So I'm going to pull this up. All right, so Vikings Rooster. If you look at her, you look at me. All right, so Justin Jefferson, Jaren Hall. All right, so we talk just first names, right? Because you can't really do anything about your last name. Jalen Naylor, Johnny Munt, Josh Oliver. Never trusted Josh. Jerry Tillery, Jaquelin, Jihad Jonah. Oh, we got the run of Jays right there. That's the draw for a while, the Jays. Jonathan Grenard. Also, these are a lot of guys that they just brought in. So maybe that instead of being a former Texan on defense, maybe your name has to start with a J. So Jonathan Grenard, Jerry Tillery, Jihad Ward, Jonah Williams, all brought in. It's kind of funny, man. Josh Metellus is up there. Never trusted Josh. Oh, carry on my Jayward son, Jalen Williams from Indiana, Joe Juan Williams. Maybe that's the only reason that they brought in Joe Juan Williams, because he's got 2 J's. John Parker Romo. I think Homeboy's got a point. Also, if they brought back Jumpin' James Lynch, I wouldn't be mad, man. There you go. So, I mean, maybe there's a point. Never trusted Jay. If you got a question, toss a couple bucks in the super chat and go from there. So your question, Hoyhita. Question on everyone's mind: is producer Ali really the brains behind the operation? Yes. And now I know producer Ali's burner account. Kelly and but for real, producer Ali could not do the show without her. She's a very valuable part of this team, and I love her to death. She's fantastic. And no, she's not my wife. A lot of people ask that. Kelly and Regasis, is Bere and Ted Lasso your top shows, as you reference them a lot? Ted Lasso is fantastic. So for a long time, so I watched Ted Lasso all the way through, and then my life was steadfast against Ted Lasso because she's like, I don't understand soccer. It's like, lady, I barely understand soccer, but it's not a soccer show. All right. And then she got into it and she got obsessed, and like every single Friday during season 3, when she got caught up, it's just like, ooh, new episode of Ted Lasso on Apple TV. Barry I like a lot. I feel like the latter seasons went off the rails. NoHo Hank is probably one of the best characters in TV history. But so back envelope favorite TV shows of all time: The Office, just like everyone. 30 Rock, I feel like, is extremely underrated. Here Comes the Fun Cooker. Ted Lasso is great. Shrinking is phenomenal. Some of the same writers from Ted Lasso are on Shrinking. And also Brett Goldstein is going to be on Shrinking season 2, which is awesome. Breaking Bad. I feel like Breaking Bad in like the regular TV era was the last show that I like watched serially, like could not wait for the next episode. Boardwalk Empire is great. Sons of Anarchy, Billions, House of Cards. Yeah, that's sort of our repertoire of TV shows at this moment in time. John Lee, $10. Was Winona football any good when you went? They're awful all 4 years I was there. LMAO. Yeah, so it was I want to say like the latter years of Tom Sawyer. But yeah, they're really good. So like Randy Spring was a running back. I think he became an assistant coach. They were solid. Like I don't think that they were like threatening national titles or anything like that. And also, I only remember the first half of home games, right? Because so there's the thing. So when you're in college, you go to Winona State. You have a good time. You have a good time before the game. You go watch the first half of the game. Then you leave at halftime. Then you continue on with your day. That was about it. It was so funny. Like the entire student section was just gone after halftime and gone and not playable. It's funny, man. It's funny. Something that is also great is the live stream, as well as donations this month, annual draft month, food shelf fundraiser, Venmos, super chats. You're just like our friend John Lee put in there. Will be donated to Twin Cities food shelves. All the ways that you normally donate and support the show throughout the year. Also, we're working directly with Every Meal this year. Or this draft month details for them are down below. Now, if you donate them to them directly on the site, shoot me an email, andy@purplefw.com, so we can include you in the goal. Currently, we're at just shy of 700, but that should shoot up during draft coverage. We're definitely doing day 2 draft night stream. Probably do day 1, but we'll see. That's TBD. And the goal is 2,200 because we can feed 2 children for 3 years on $1,100 a piece. So that's our goal, and that's what we're shooting for it. And thank you everyone for who has shot in donations so far. And we're going to get there. I believe, man. That's right. Next, Cody Pierce. Is it really dry? Like, so we've had humidifiers running nonstop in this house. I feel like it's kind of dry for spring. I don't know, man. Cody Pierce, who do you think from our non-starters will rise up this year to be a starter? So non-starters that rise up. I mean, Blake Brandel kind of counts, right? Because I think he's going to be your starting left guard. I don't know. It's tough to say. I'd say non-start. Like maybe Asma gets it together. Maybe they have more 3 linebacker looks. But he's firmly behind Pace Jr. and Cashman coming on in. I don't know. It's tough to say. I feel like a lot of guys are entrenched. Maybe Jaquelin Roy rises up and wins one of the 4-tech, 5-tech spots over guys like Bullard, or they probably have Tillery penciled in too. Yeah, would like to see that. I'm not ready to give up on Jaquelin, man. That's right. Justin Colburn, not going to lie, I'm disappointed in the Timberwolves' efforts to hold the number 1 seed over the past few games. Now we're sitting at number 3 against a team we're 0-3 this season. What's your playoff prediction? Foe. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be all right. Knack Dog, after all the smoke screens and this and that, what quarterback do you want and where do you want to draft him? I think 2 quarterbacks are going to slide, and there is talk they want to keep pick 23. So after a lot of thinking and soul searching, I want Drake May. And we said you bet on ceiling. And I think that Drake May's ceiling is as high as anyone's in this draft, including Caleb Williams. And I know that McCarthy is safe. I know Daniels is going to be fun. I don't think he's going to be in range for the Vikings. I know that if they stick and pick, my preference would be Penix. All right, so we'll break that down. If they trade up for a quarterback, May. If they stick and pick, Penix. There you go. I feel like that's pretty concise, pretty cogent. Next up, Brinton Jorgensen. Do you think Darnold is locked in as quarterback 1, or could rookie TBD take it before week 1? I think the rookie's going to have to come in and just be a monster, like CJ Stroud adjacent. I think that, again, for all the reasons why the rookie quarterback could be good, I mean, Sam Darnold's going to have all those opportunities too, with the tackles, with the receivers, with Aaron Jones, with KOC. I'm not ready to give up on Darnold too, man. There's a reason why he's number 3 overall pick. American Truth or $2. We all need to push for tampering on social medias. Yeesh. Falcons, they know what they did. And hey, if the Vikings, Falcons, I'll tell you what. To extract our pound of flesh, we'll just take swapping 8 for 11. And also one of your extra 3rd-round picks from the Calvin Ridley trade. That's all we want. We're very simple people. Next. is Chase Essex. Will you be bringing back the hot dish segments this season? I feel like we should. I just have to be less lazy when we go about it. Actually, who are we playing this year? We're on a way train, never coming back. Let's see. Opponents 2025 Vikings. No, 2024. I'm already living in the future. In the year 2000. I love that Conan O'Brien's getting his flowers. People are realizing that Conan is the best. Conan's great. I love Conan, man. All right, so Vikings schedule. Yeah. All right, so I feel like the ads have gotten worse. I don't know what it is, man. All right, so the usual stupid crooked Chicago Bears, low energy Lions, greasy grimy Green Bay Packers, Texans. So Houston, it's not Central Texas, but the barbecue is still good. But Houston has a very large, like Chinese and Vietnamese base, so that could be interesting there. Arizona, I mean, could you say Tex-Mex? Except it's not. Obviously, it's not Texas. Atlanta. So since Kurt is there, we could do something funny. I mean, like, how would Kurt do chicken and waffles? Chicken waffles are great, by the way. Sweet and savory. It's fantastic. The Colts, Indianapolis. So it's hard to say, like, what is Indiana cuisine? Like, yeah, they have St. Elmo's Steakhouse, so we could just do a badass steak and some hot fire shrimp cocktail. Sure. Jacksonville. The hell are they eat in Jacksonville? I don't know, man. L.A., that's completely wide open. The Giants. Well, New Jersey. What's New Jersey all about, man? Guess we still make pizza. Sure. Seattle. I don't know. I'll catch a fish. Tennessee. Well, we could do. So Tennessee has something called dry ribs, so the smoked ribs, usually loin back ribs, no wrap, but they're still really good, and they're not dry at all. The Jets, same thing. San Francisco, I don't know. Hey, remember during the Rona when everyone tried to make sourdough? So we actually had sourdough starter, and we made a couple loaves of bread. Like, they were fine, but also they weren't like artisan. It was like, there's way too much effort there. There's way too much effort there. But it was still fun. So what can I say? Next, how long are we going to do this? Now we got a couple questions left. There we go. Shikataru. Could there be a scenario where the Falcons are forced to swap 8 for 23 for the Tampering Kirk Cousins? Man, 8 for 23 would be a huge punishment. They deserve to be punished. I mean, obviously they tampered. And it's not so much like, will this benefit the Vikings? I actually think there's a small % chance that the Vikings will directly benefit, because I don't think that Kurt was come back in any way, shape, or form. But if the Falcons get away with it, why doesn't every medical team or athletic trainer or PR staff meet with a player before the start of the league year? Why not? I mean, if there's no rules, why not? But, man, I'm just hoping for 8 for 11, but 8 for 23 would be super sexy. Oh, my God. Papa Paul, $2. No team ever successfully tampered on top quarterback. Crazy. It is. I mean, you would think that, hey, if you're going to tamper with any quarterback, do it for 2012 Peyton Manning. Don't do it for 2024 Kirk Cousins. And also, who are the Falcons bidding against? There was no other team reportedly even in the ballpark for that money. The Vikings weren't going to go after it, so the Falcons were bidding against themselves, and they basically just framed a guilty man. Like, they were going to get Kurt. It's just funny, man. I think it's really hilarious. Sparky Finch, if the Vikings pick a guy who turns into Andy Dalton or Baker Mayfield and they keep making the playoffs, is a total loss. I think they would keep drafting like the Niners and mine for gold, strike gold. We've always been you draft a quarterback every other year, and you look at history. So they had Brady, And the Patriots were consistently looking for another quarterback. Now, they didn't use a first-round pick. They did use a second-round pick on Jimmy G in 2014. They spent a third-round pick, third or fourth, on Jabroni Brisket. They spent a third-round pick on Ryan Mallett. They spent a draft pick on Rohan Davey. They spent a third-round pick on Kevin O'Connell. They spent a draft pick on Cliff Kingsbury. So they were always, even though they had Tom frickin' Brady, they were always drafting quarterbacks because quarterback is important, right? And it's always good to have options. And also, you look at what Andy Reid did for a number of years with like A.J. Feely and Kevin Cobb behind Donovan McNabb. Even if you got the guy, keep drafting quarterbacks. It's what the Vikings should be doing after this year. Jazz Hurd, what do the trade charts say if, let's say it will take to get to 3, 4, 5? Throw the trade charts out. It's going to take 3 first-round picks. Lawson GK, whatever happened to the idea that you should let a rookie quarterback sit for a few years before starting them? When did that change and why? I think it changed when, so this is way before the rookie wage scale, but once rookie salaries started skyrocketing and the rookie quarterback coming in before even playing a down of football was the highest paid player on your team, I think that automatically went out the window, where teams were looking to get return on investment. And fans want to see the rookie quarterback, the guy who's making all the money, and the team wants him to earn his money. But that ironically worked against them because a lot of the rookie quarterbacks weren't ready to play. And the rookie quarterback going to the worst team in the league, having to start right away, and also big time contract, not going to work out. Nah. Brandon Dela Cruz, what's more likely, May falling or May getting you fired? May falling or getting you fired? Both? No. R. Anderson, thanks for content, man. You killing it. Thank you. So I'm getting some draft fatigue. What's your top 5 Disney movies to watch with the fam? All right, so did Disney and Pixar. So Disney right now, the kids love Frozen 2 for whatever reason. They love Mulan, but also Mulan 2 for whatever reason. The Lion King live action, Aladdin, but not the live action, the OG, and Beauty and the Beast live action with Emma... Oh, I'm blanking out. Hermione. There you go. Pixar, all the Toy Stories they love. Coco, which is great. But also, like, the end of Coco will get you tear up. Remember me. Inside Out will also get you teared up. I think they're making a second one. Up. Oh, speaking of tears, like if you don't tear up in the first 5 minutes, Up, you dead. Inside. And also they love The Incredibles. There you go. Let's see here. Jay Jettas, man, thinking about the draft and quarterbacks, I miss Teddy Two Gloves. What could have been? I still stand that Teddy put on good weight, put on some muscle. That deep ball had better zip outside the numbers. The ball had more velocity in year 3, and then his leg fell off. Yeah, what could have been? And a lot of people went out to, oh, well, you see he was a career backup afterwards. His leg literally fell off. You think that might have been slightly career-altering? Reno. Could you see the Vikings trade up and drafting quarterback in the first round, Mayor McCarthy, and then circling back, taking on the 4th or 5th Rattler, kind of like Washington 2012, and also blah, 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 blah. Yes. And personally, I would be okay with that. Now, PFF Sam took that to an extreme where they took May and Penix in the first and second round through various trades. But could you see a spot where they trade up for May and then they come around and get Pratt or Jordan Travis at the top of day 3? Sure. Yeah. I would actually be okay with that. Next. Osama been smoking. Which quarterback do you think the Vikings draft want the Vikings draft the most outside Caleb Williams? Drake May. At this point, Drake May. Showdown. Any local homeboys you cheering on for this draft? Me, Alex Larson, tight end from St. Cloud. Well, all I know is that Joe Alt is from Totina Grace, but Brevin Span Ford is going to be up in there. There's a couple other local guys. Cooper DeJean is sort of localish. Duh. Next. Bob Ain Gaming. Nailed it. What if, hear me out, if JJ doesn't want to stay with the Vikings, we trade him to Arizona for both their firsts, and we have 4 first-round picks, and on top of that, we were to trade Atlanta 11 and 8 for their shenanigans. All right, so in that specific scenario, the Vikings trade JJ to the Cardinals for 4 and 27, and then also they swap out 8 and 11, so the Vikings would have 4, 8, 23, and 27. I would still want more for JJ. JJ for me at minimum is worth 3 first-round picks, but we can hold the line there. But I mean, it is a deep and top-heavy wide receiver class, and if you're getting your quarterback of the future, I still don't want to do it. I still don't want to give him up because isn't the whole point of the draft getting good players and trading away a guy that you know is tier 1 at his position, at a premium position? Yes, it'll cost you, except you already budgeted out the money. I don't know, man. Nah. Chris McGinnis, $2. As Falcons fan, we obviously tampered. Who cares? Go Falcons. I mean, that's the whole thing, dude. Like, Falcons fans know that they tampered, but I feel like it was so blatantly obvious that they have to get. I mean, it's like speeding. Like, everyone speeds, but if you go like a $140 and a 55, you should probably get ticketed. Next, actually, wasn't it 65? Doesn't matter. Jay Jettas, ideal player you want us to pick at 23. So if I just had one choice of a player who could be available in that range, I'll take Graham Barton. Graham Barton is my dog. Graham Barton, I feel like, is going to be an all-pro center. Graham Barton, I feel like, has a chance to be a Hall of Famer. Don't care. Do not care at all. There you go. Next. Road Warrior, best running back in the draft this year, and Dwayne McBride going to play C.J. Ham when his contract expires. I don't think McBride has that dog in him to be a fullback. I think he's a tailback, and maybe he'll get some run this year. Who knows? Best running back in the draft this year, I would say maybe Brooks. Yeah, I'd say maybe Brooks. I'm really high on Estime, but I understand why people are not. Also, I still believe in Bucky Irving, even though he didn't test well. I mean, you saw what he did on the field, man. Come on. 84 GOAT. What's your opinion on the media just disliking Minnesota Vikings in general? It is what it is, and we live with it and move on. Sam 318. What do you think will happen to JJ? Do you think he will resign or leave? I think that both sides understand that something is going to get done. Like, there isn't the drama, there isn't the consternation, there isn't the posturing in the media. JJ's going to be fine. JJ's going to get paid what he deserves. The Vikings have it budgeted out, and they'll be fine. Yeah. Arizona, JJ proven wide receiver. Vikings get 4. Get Harrison Jr., get Justin Herbert. I mean, I feel like the 3 or 4-way trade has been proposed a couple times. I think there's too many moving parts. At the end of, I mean, hell, if the Vikings end up with Harrison Jr. and Justin Herbert, though, I mean, just build a statue of Kwesi, and we'll go from there. But that is it. That is the live stream for this beautiful Monday night. You guys are the best. Thanks for coming along. Remember, draft month, donations, food shelf, every meal. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull, production value.